So the question that was asked was, what is spinal metastasis, the causes, presentation, investigations, and management. So you have to write something about the epidemiology also in such cases, because this is how you will score better. 5 to 20% of the cases develop neurological deficit. 21 to 50% of the cases with systemic mets have spine lesions. So as high as 50% of the patients who are having metastasis are going to have lesions in spine. And the common primaries are breast, lung, prostate, colon, thyroid, adrenal, renal. And in fact, spinal metastasis may be the first presentation of malignancy. Diverse classification. So when they basically divided the classification on the basis of how much is the collapse, and also whether there is deficit or not, and also along with that whether the immune response is good or not. So class 1 is there is a destruction of the body without any collapse. 1A is less than 50, 1B is more than 50, 1C is when the pedicle is also involved in the destruction. So this is important because as you will say, 1C destruction, that means pedicle is destroyed and the stability is compromised. Class 2 is collapse is there with good immune response. Class 3 is collapse with poor immune response. Now, class 4 is when there is collapse, deficit, paraparesis, and good immune response. Class 5 is collapse, paraparesis, poor immune response. So, depending on whether the neurology is intact or not, the patients may be in class 2 or 3 or 4 and 5 types. If there is no deficit, they are in 2 and 3. And if there is deficit, they are into 4 and 5. So this is how Devers gave a very beautiful classification, I would say, which makes us understand about the neurology, the response to the treatment, and the deficit also. Spinal cord tumors can be intramedullary, like ependymoma, glioblastoma, medulloblastoma, and extramedullary, like meningioma, angioma, lipoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma, tuberculoma, and metastatic tumors. So these can be either intra or extramedullary. So this is one of the examples wherein the patient deteriorated in a span of 1 week and developed significant deficit because this intradural tumor increased in size within a week's time. So many a times patient may just have weight pain and suddenly they may start developing deficit even in the age group which is not a pediatric one, and even adults can suddenly start developing deficit because of a tumor which didn't increase in size for a very long duration of time and then suddenly it started increasing. Extradural compressions is something that looks like this. So as you are seeing, this is a compression on the dura because it is not involving inside the dura. You can see the gray dura intact over here and a compressive element over here. Since there is no clear demarcation between the white CSF over here, hence it is a extradural compression. This is a variant of neurofibroma in a 25-year-old, and since there is such a significant compression, it presented with a severe myelopathy. So these extradural compressions would present with myelopathies. How do these patients present? They present with motor weakness, spastic paralysis, and brisk reflexes. Sensory wise, there would be hyperesthesia, loss of vibration, position sense, and pain and temperature deficits would be there. Bladder and bowel involvement would also be incurred in severe cases. So this is how these patients generally present. And in a lot of times, bladder and bowel involvement could be in early involvement also, depending on the type of tumor. So the patient may present to you just with bladder and bowel involvement, and that is in fact common in certain intradural tumors. Regional presentation, cervical. So if you have a pathology in cervical, the patients may just present to you with occipital pain, with myelopathy, upper limb radiculopathy. There would be even cases wherein they just develop some sensory deficits in the form of tingling, and then you go on to diagnose them with some form of tumor which is present near the nerve root. If the same tumor is present in the thoracic spine, they would present to you with girdle pain, paraplegia, bladder and bowel symptoms. Lumbar spine pathologies would present with radicular pain, spastic or flaccid paraplegia, and conus tumors would present to you with saddle anesthesia, sphincter weakness, and impotence. On investigations, we would see edema or body collapse, increase in interpedicular distance on the X-ray, multiple lesions with soft tissue shadow would also be seen. MRI is generally the gold standard wherein you get to see the site, size, extent, vascularity, and also the cord status to understand whether the tumor is intradural, intramedullary, or intradural and extramedullary. So for that also you need to see the MRI. PET scan helps in the localization and also to determine whether the tumor is a secondary or a primary, and if the tumor is coming from somewhere, so where is the primary? So primary tumor detection is also important with the PET, because multiple times we have patients who come to us with, so giving you an example, I have a patient who came with bladder and bowel involvement and a partial foot drop. We found she had a S1 metastasis. When we did the PET, we found the primary was coming from the intestine. So this is how we generally go about the investigation. X-ray is important because X-ray will tell you about how much is the edema involvement of the body, and whenever there is a destruction, the interpedicular distance increases, and multiple lesions can also be seen on the X-ray. What is the goal? So the goal in such cases generally is to relieve the neural compression and also separation, I would say. Separation surgery is a term that is used wherein we don't completely, excise the tumor. We separate the tumor from the spinal cord so that with the radiation and chemo, we can give good results. And generally with the chemo also, generally with the radiation also, we can give a targeted radiation over there. And that is possible only when there is an interface that is present in between the spinal cord and that tumor. So this is separation surgery wherein we create that interface between the two, so that with good decompression, we are able to give a targeted radiation therapy also. Extramedullary tumors, generally we do a surgical excision. Intramedullary tumors, we do a decompression. And after that, if there is some instability involved in both of them, or if, you have to even compromise the facets while removal, so in that case, stabilization is also recommended. Radical laminectomy for posterior element tumor. So there are multiple times cases wherein the tumors just involve the posterior aspect, that is the posterior elements, and if they involve the posterior elements, in that case we just do a excision of the posterior elements. When it involves a vertebral body, we can do a corpectomy, decompression, and a stabilization. When the hold is compromised of the screws, we have to do a cement augmentation with the instrumentation so that the instrumentation doesn't fail. Depending on the biopsy, what is the tumor, you are going to do chemo and radiation also with your oncologist, and palliative pain management is also recommended in the cases that are far progressed. So generally surgery is recommended in the patients, especially I'm talking about the cases which are metastasis. If the life expectancy is beyond 3 months, in that case some intervention is advised. If not, then we basically just do a palliative pain management.